The importance of software patching for enterprises cannot be underestimated. I'm Yvette Essen for CyberCube, and I'm joined by Max Sokolov, Head of Engineering for our office in Estonia. Can you tell me, first of all, that given the threat actor and methods of attack deployed are constantly changing, what should companies be doing to protect themselves?
You're absolutely right, Yvette. I think the threat landscape is changing and changing rapidly. And the enterprises need to keep in mind things like the diversification of their endpoint devices due to the employee being mobile because of or bringing their own devices into the enterprises, as well as the moving of the workloads and infrastructure from the on-prem to the cloud. So all of these things need to be kept in mind to be protected by the IT organizations within enterprises.
Can you explain to me briefly what exactly is patching?
It is called patching because there is a software that imagine it has a problem or like a scar or like the cut in it. And the cut in it is where the infections can go in. And you actually want to make sure that there's a patch on top of it applied because it's an update to the software which fixes specific vulnerability. And that is called patching.
What exactly should you be patching?
It's organizations that we want to make sure they're patching because it's almost never comes down to the individual people who are doing the patching in enterprises. It's a responsibility of IT organizations and security organizations there. And they need to be patching basically every software that is running on the productivity laptops and machines, as well as servers, everything that will be running. It's operating system, it's applications, it's a business critical applications like whatever you do make sure necessary for you to run the business, as well as the usual productivity things like Office, the Gmail, or whatever things you need.
Why is it important to patch, and ideally, how often should this be done?
Consider the patching as the hygiene for your IT infrastructure. And pretty much like your health hygiene, the more things you do to keep your basic things in shape, the less of the challenges you have to manage the problems later on. So it is much easier to prevent problems from happening with the patch hygiene than to try to recover from them if the problems happens. Take an example, the breaches that happened with Equifax in 2017. There is the problem that they faced. It was already addressed by the vendor, Apache, like several months before the breach happened. But in the end, it's almost nearly 150 million of US citizens ended up exposing their personal information, and that had been leaked. Another thing is the famous WannaCry and NotPetya ransomware attacks. The problems with the Microsoft operating system that caused or allowed this vulnerability to be exploited by malicious actors, it all has been patched and available for IT organizations almost 2 months before the problems occurred.
Can you highlight some of the challenges, both technological and human, of keeping the patch level up?
Sure. Technologically, this is related to the complexity again and the very broad number of things need to be managed. There's every enterprise has more than one software vendor to manage. They most likely have different operating systems to be kept patched and updated. So the sheer amount of the vulnerabilities that need to be addressed and looked at is enormous, and everyone has the different objectives in this. Different stakeholders have different objectives. IT organizations have objective to keep things going. Security teams have make sure that there's no vulnerabilities, and sometimes these priorities and SLAs comes at odds to each other. And this is the both organizational and technological problem, as well as the people regular end users, like you and I, for example. If we see the need for update on your phone, you basically hit click and it's gone. But if you are in the middle of working on a Word document or something like that, you don't want to disrupt your productive flow. And people keep on delaying the updates, which causes ultimately the delay in getting the patches done.
Besides patching, what else can companies be doing to protect themselves?
That's a very good question. I would say that there's things like investing the efforts into the educating the employees, making sure they understand the criticality and the value of keeping the software patched and updated. And it's also, again, goes back to the hygiene analogy that I made earlier, because it helps them not only in their professional work, but in their personal life as well. Keeping the families and their personal lives protected is great. And second thing, investing in understanding the business processes, the cooperation between different departments and organizational challenges that I mentioned earlier as well. All of these things need to be done in a way that it allows for the enterprise to keep their hygiene at the higher level and prevent problems from happening.
For CyberCube, I'm Yvette Essen.